The European Union has sent almost €1 billion to Russia each day for energy since the war in Ukraine began, its chief of foreign affairs admitted earlier today. Josep Borrell told the European Parliament that the amount of aid given to Kyiv pales in comparison to the amount the EU has spent on Russian energy as he pushed for more sanctions on oil and coal to be levied against Putin, and renewed weapons shipments to the front lines. "We have given Ukraine €1 billion. But €1 billion is what we pay Putin every day for the energy he provides us," the EU's top diplomat said. "We have to continue arming Ukraine. More weapons, that is what the Ukrainians expect of us." The 27-state-strong union has paid Russia around €35 billion since the start of the conflict in Ukraine on February 24, according to Borrell. With the conflict now into its 41st day, this means that roughly €850 million has been funneled into Putin's coffers from Europe each day since Russian tanks rolled across the border. The EU has condemned the invasion of Ukraine and has already implemented several rounds of sanctions designed to cripple the Kremlin's finances, but some countries are scrambling to establish alternative energy supplies amid a heavy dependence on Russian resources, particularly liquefied natural gas, LNG. Advertisement. Separately. So far, Europe had not been willing to target Russian energy over fears that it would plunge the European economy into recession, but the recent reports of mass civilian killings have increased pressure for tougher sanctions. In March, European countries imported a total of 7.1 million tons of thermal coal, which is used in power and heat generation, a 40.5% increase year-on-year and the highest level since March 2019, analysis from shipbroker Braemar ACM found. On a weekly basis, March 28 to April 1 saw the highest levels of Russian thermal coal imports since the February 24 invasion began, with 887,000 tons imported into the EU, according to Braemar. The EU depends on Russia for around 45% of its coal imports, 45% of its gas imports and around 25% of its oil imports, according to the European Commission website. Germany, the EU's largest economy, has remained opposed to cutting off Russian energy imports, and Chancellor Olaf Scholz has been called out by Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky previously for his reluctance to reduce German consumption of Putin's resources. German coal importers group VDK on Wednesday said the country should be able to find alternatives to Russian hard coal imports by the peak demand winter season, but warned there will be technical issues and increased costs. The US and the UK previously announced they were cutting off Russian oil. Poland said it plans to block imports of coal and oil from Russia, while Lithuania said it is no longer using Russian natural gas. The moves to cut reliance on Russian energy come at a time of uncertainty about future gas deliveries from Russia to the EU later this month, after the Kremlin demanded last week that buyers start paying Russian gas giant Gazprom in rubles. Meanwhile, the United States and G7 are preparing new sanctions on Russian financial institutions, state-owned enterprises and more Russian government officials and their family members. The Allies plan to ban new investment in Russia, and the United States has banned Moscow from paying sovereign debt holders with money in U.S. banks. The moves may increase economic hardship for Russians but may not put much of a dent in Russia's energy revenues, according to U.S. sanctions analysts. "We are at the point where we have to take some pain," said Ben Steele, International Economics Director for the Council on Foreign Relations think tank in New York. The initial batches of sanctions were crafted as much to not hurt us in the West as much as they were to hurt Russia. The States has been pushing its European allies to inflict more pain on Russia while trying to make sure that the alliance against Putin does not fray, a balance that only gets tougher as countries on all sides begin to feel the effects of war. "You've kind of hit the ceiling, on both sides of the Atlantic, for what can be done easily and what can be done in short order," said Clayton Allen, U.S. Director at the Eurasia Group Political Risk Consultancy, said of sanctions. To move to a tougher round of sanctions, U.S. officials will need to provide some assurances to European countries that energy markets and supplies can be stabilized to avoid severe economic hardship, Allen said. "An economically weakened EU helps no one," he added. "If Western Europe is plunged into a recession, that's going to drastically limit the amount of support, both moral and material, that they can provide to Ukraine," Allen said. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is expected to press the case for more actions in Brussels this week at NATO and G7 meetings of foreign ministers.